There's a massive fuel crisis in the United Kingdom as of now. Petrol stations are shut down as the prices of gas are now rising. The government insists that there is no shortage of petrol. The problem is with the supply chain. There's a dearth of heavy goods vehicle drivers, which has in turn affected the delivery of fuel, of course. On your screens now are visuals coming in from petrol stations across the United Kingdom. Cars can be seen lined up. People are hoarding petrol despite the government's advice against doing so. Meanwhile, the UK Transport Secretary Grant Shapps has promised that authorities will do whatever it takes to resolve the trucker shortage, which has affected a range of industries, including supermarkets. In fact, the government is even considering to bring in the army to deal with the crisis.
There's plenty of petrol. It needs to get distributed. It's like all the other, goods and services we buy in the supermarkets as well. It needs to be gotten to the location. In terms of the shortage, we know that there are a lot of drivers who want to take their HGV, their driving, their lorry tests. But of course, the centres were closed over the coronavirus, and about 40,000 couldn't take their tests over that period of time. So what we're doing is moving heaven and earth. I have already introduced legislation which has helped to double the number of available testing slots from pre-pandemic levels. So we're getting those drivers tested and through, and they're joining the marketplace.
So what has led to the shortage of truck drivers, and why did it happen now? Well, both the pandemic as well as Brexit are to be blamed for this. Many European drivers went home during the COVID-19 crisis and have refused to return due to bureaucratic hurdles. Post-Brexit taxation system has also made it more expensive for the EU drivers to work in the United Kingdom. Tests to hire new drivers could not take place because of the coronavirus-induced restrictions. Moreover, fuel giants, including GP, has now shut down some of its petrol stations in the country. After the petrol, there is, of course, the gas supply issue. A record hike in prices has affected the UK's energy sectors. Residents are now bracing for soaring winter heating bills.
The problem we've had in the long term in the UK is that we've run a very lean gas supply business for at least a decade or thereabouts. In 2004, the UK ceased to be a net exporter of gas, and we needed to start importing that gas. The quantity of imported gas has run to about 60% today, and it's challenges over that component which are driving the prices up.
Now, for a better understanding of the fuel crisis currently underway in the United Kingdom, joining us now is our Bureau Chief from London, Mandy Clark. Mandy, thank you so much for joining us. My first question for you, how does the government in the UK plan to resolve this crisis? There seems to be a huge shortage of truck drivers, which in turn has disrupted fuel delivery.
It is a major crisis. There has been, as you've shown, pictures of queues right around the corner. There has been a steady number of drivers here at this point. The way they plan to tackle it is to try and get those tests up. And if they need to, they're going to bring in the army. But there is a bigger problem that many of the army drivers don't necessarily have civilian licenses to drive those heavy goods trucks. So it might seem like a quick solution for the government, but it might not be a solution in itself because they need those tests done. But the Transport Secretary has made it perfectly clear he's doing everything possible, and many are saying that there is enough petrol and diesel in the UK. It's just the supply chain. It's a slight glitch. No more panic buying is the call from the government.
Right, Mandy. Now, we know that the pandemic as well as the crisis that ensued thereafter is partly to blame for the fuel crisis. Another very important aspect in all of this, of course, is Brexit. We've all heard about the logistical nightmares that have followed and the controversies that have followed. So tell us, what exactly are the reasons for this fuel crisis?
So, because of the pandemic, many of the seasonal workers, people who came into the UK from the EU, where they could get more value for money, making wages in pounds but sending it back home. Now, because of the coronavirus outbreak, a lot of them couldn't get the work in the UK and went back home. Because of Brexit, it has made coming back to the UK to do that seasonal work or part-time work a lot more expensive and ultimately not worth it to them. So there's a short of 100,000 drivers of generally EU people who have decided that it's just not worth their time to come back. Because of that enormous shortage in skills, we have companies all around the UK that are calling for a relaxation of the immigration rules around that particular skills shortage of drivers of heavy goods. Now, the government says they're not going to consider that simply they have been undercutting what British drivers, and they have to just encourage British drivers to upskill to that.
Mandy Clark, our bureau chief, joining us from London. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for all your insights. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.